appreciate it. I've got a big bowl of apple here, so I'll probably be muting myself at some point too.
Yeah. And there's the man. All right.
Da 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 da.
Happy New Year, Anthony.
Happy New Year to you. So Phil
Yeah.
is back. It's been a while.
Yeah. Well,
A couple
uh,
weeks, I think, 2, 3 weeks.
longer than that, actually. Probably since my wife had her surgery. I'm not sure.
Oh, maybe.
Yeah, before Christmas.
So she's okay.
Yeah.
That's good.
Mhm. Yeah. I've been pretty busy dealing with all the stuff that she can't do, couldn't do, and then she's getting back on her feet. You
Um,
remember you remember Mad Magazine, right?
oh yeah.
Yeah, they do parodies, and there was Ripley's Believe It or Not, but they had a parody called Strangely Believe It.
I love Mad Magazine. I was in Walmart a couple of weeks ago, and I happened to look at the magazine rack, and yeah, there was a Mad Magazine there. And I
Oh,
thought, oh, I didn't know they were still making those things. Well, they probably aren't, because when I took a look through it, I realized, oh, it's sort of a best of Mad Magazine, you know.
oh, okay.
But anyway, I looked, I started looking through it, and I was laughing out loud. You know, it was so funny, right? They just have, they just have a way of kind of twisting things around to,
Yeah.
to
Well,
make them funny.
the artists that did that, all the creators of that, they probably aged out. I mean,
Well, yeah, I think so.
we were teenagers, right? Or even almost sub-teen
Yeah,
when it started, and all those guys were,
yeah,
at
that's
least
right.
a
Al Jaffe and
dozen years older than us, and
yeah, I think it. I
if
think
any
it
of them are
finally.
still kicking, they're in their 90s, I would think.
Yeah, I think it finally died a few years ago, but no, I mean, I was reading it right from high school, I think, on up, so I probably read it for,
Right,
close to 50 years, right?
right.
Always funny, and one of the things I used to love were those, well, they had a lot of things that I used to love, but one of them was when they used to do these parodies of the big blockbuster movies and things that were
Yeah,
out,
right,
and
right, right.
they were always hilarious, right? And those fold-its in the back, where you folded the cover over and it was sort of ironic, it would explain something and then you
Yeah.
folded it over and it gave you the answer, like, and
Mhm.
um, yeah, fantastic.
Yeah. Alfred E. Newman, right?
Alfred E. Newman, yeah, I use him on some of my videos
Mm.
about worry. What me worry? You know,
Hmm.
I
Right.
read Mad, and I mean, it sounds like a joke, and I guess it is a joke, but I'm just checking my recording here.
Oh, I was gonna say, hey Anthony, make sure you record it.
Yeah, last week I totally forgot about it. I had it all set up and I just forgot to click record. Um,
Mm.
but it's on now. Um, yeah, so what was I saying about Mad Magazine there? Um, yeah, what me worry. Oh yeah, I know what I was going to say. I mean, it sounds like a joke, and I guess it is a joke, but but it's also true that if you can laugh at something, if you can twist it around and make it funny, then the negative feelings tend to go away, right? And this is why we value comics so much. If they can make fun of, religion or parents or the government or whatever, right?
Hmm.
Um, then they really sort of bring it down to size, and that's a great thing. So, did you happen to see Naomi's message this morning in the Facebook
I
Messenger
did.
group?
I did. I did. She's succeeded in retiring.
Yeah, well, that was her big thing when she first started, right? Like way back. I remember her talking about it. I think she joined in March 2022, maybe. So it's, almost 2 years for her.
Hmm.
And at some point in there, might have been 6 months or might have been a year in, um, but she was talking about that. That was her goal, was to retire. And of course, like everybody, it was a little scary and confusing and like that. But she gave me a great testimonial here, in her message this morning, saying, she couldn't have done it without me, or without my teachings.
Hmm.
So, and she said she might show up. So if she
Yeah, I saw
shows
that.
up,
She would be late.
yeah. So I sent you guys a video, at least a link to a video by Benjamin Hardy. I'm not sure if you noticed it, but I suggest you watch it anyway, and because we're going to start working with that. It includes a worksheet, like a one-page sheet where you analyze your recent past, like 2023, I guess, and your victories in 2023, and then you look again forward to the new year, And
Hmm.
so I think we're probably going to work with that for the next few weeks, because that's very important. As a matter of fact, I think he was the first guy that I remember that talked about the future self. That's kind of where I got that concept from. I had never used that phrase before, the future self. And I've since discovered that Carl Jung talked about it 100 years ago, about the future self. I
Wow.
covered that in one of our in one of these videos here. One of the things that I've started to do, or I've stopped doing, I should say, is probably more appropriate. After I started watching Tara Swart, we talked about her a while back. She's a neuroscientist. She's an MD. She was a neuroscientist as well. She is a neuroscientist. She was a doctor for many years, and I think she was actually a psychiatrist. Um, and she was very successful in that field. But then at some point she decided, her life wasn't at the place that she wanted it to be at. She was having problems in her relationships and, whatever, right? And she was getting burnt out because doctors work long hours. And so she switched and she got a degree. I guess she got a PhD, I think, in neuroscience. And now and she got into the Master Key, right? Which is a book I've talked about many times. That was the book, probably, or maybe one, if I was honest, I guess, one of them, about maybe 3 or 4 books that I really got into, that I really studied. And I studied it for a year, did all the exercises and learned a lot from it. So I'm a big booster of the Master Key. But anyway, what Tara Swart said, which caught my attention, was that most neuroscientists don't watch the news. They don't listen to the news. And it's something that I've always kind of thought, wow, how can you not listen to the news? I mean, I've heard people say before, don't listen to the news, don't read the newspaper. But I always kind of poo pooed that. But when she said it, somehow it kind of clicked, because when you think from the standpoint of like the neurochemicals that you have going through your body, the stress chemicals and the other hormones and things. She said just listening to the news or reading the newspaper instantly bums you out, and your whole chemical balance in your body changes. So so when I heard her say that, I decided, okay, no more news for me, right? And so by and large, for the last maybe 2 months or so since I heard her say that, I haven't been watching the news like I used to. And I find it makes a difference. As a matter of fact, the other day I had an appointment with somebody, and I was sitting in a coffee shop, and the guy texted me and said, I'm going to be a few minutes late. So I thought, oh, okay, well, I might as well look at the newspaper then. I haven't looked at the newspaper for a month. So there was a newspaper sitting in there, so I grabbed the newspaper and sort of leafed through it. And like within a couple of minutes, I realized, man, my energy's totally changed now. I'm really kind of bummed out. It's all about accidents and murders and people having trouble. And I thought, it's true, right? You just think about that and your whole physiology changes. Jessica, you were going to say something?
Yeah, so I haven't watched the news or read a newspaper or anything like that in over 30 years because I remember I had a job a long time ago, well, over 30 years ago, and the lady that was my boss was an older lady at the time, and her husband was already retired because he had some health problems. He had like heart problems and things like that. And the doctor actually told him, "Stop watching the news, you're going to kill yourself."
Wow.
Because when you watch it, you get into that state of like you start to feel, anger, frustration, whatever towards what's going on, but with no outlet. There's like unless you're prepared to go and like go on a mission and make this your mission in life to go solve this problem, there's nothing you can do with
There's
that
nothing
energy.
you can do about it, right?
And it actually does the body harm. It puts you into that state of dis-ease. And I always joke and I say that I happily, firmly have my head buried in the sand. And I'm content to be there.
Yeah.
Like I'm good. I like to be what they call the gatekeeper of my mind. I choose what goes in there.
Absolutely. Well, when I was in China, I was walking around the street one day in China, right? And when I was living there, and I suddenly realized I'm illiterate as far as China goes. I don't know what's going on, Like I walk down the street, I read all these signs. I don't know what they mean by and large. I go through I go past the newspaper rack. The headlines are blaring out there. I don't know what they're saying because they're in Chinese. And, you go to the magazine rack and you look at, I don't know what they're talking about, right? So I thought, it's really nice to be kind of ignorant.
You could honestly say it's all Chinese to me.
Yeah, exactly. And so I realized, that I was like a little kid in China. I mean, I could, I was walking around feeling good, and it could have been having, all the headlines and the things I was passing on the news rack could have been talking about the end of the world is coming or something, and I wouldn't even know, So, because it's a habit, right? I mean, I used to read the newspaper every day and watch the news every day because my parents did. I guess that's where I first learned it. You don't go to bed until you watch the evening news. Well, now I think about it and I think, wow, what a stupid idea that is, because like you just get bummed out and then you go to bed.
Unless it's in your locus of control, you can't fix a lot of it, and you may be hearing about it, but I think it really opens you up to being manipulated, too.
Exactly.
I mean,
yeah, you can't do anything about it,
Greg, I refer to that as my happy bubble. I have my happy bubble. It's my 3 feet of space or my 20 feet of space. It's the people that I've invited to be a part of my world. This is part of my happy bubble, right? The friends that I have, the activities that I do. Outside of that, I can't control it, and I'm not going to allow it to affect me. So people are either in my bubble or they're out of it.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, I think that's what I think to do it summary, once a month, once every couple of weeks to get updated as to the happenings. But I think to give it very little space, in your world is probably a better health thing. But
I don't remember where I heard this, but somebody asked the question. Let's pretend, like Anthony, you have not watched the news for a month. Has that affected you? Like, do you feel like has it actually affected your life, not knowing what's going on in all the different parts of the world? Or are you still living the life the same way? You're still doing your things, right? All it's doing is bringing in negativity that you have to marinate on. But if you didn't know it was happening, your actual life day to day probably doesn't change by not knowing it.
Oh, yeah.
Right?
I get emails from people, and they're saying, oh, the world's going down the drain. There's a war here and a war here and a famine here and all these people suffering over here. And it's like, well, I think about that. I mean, I know what's going on. I know that life is life, right? And the world is the way it is. But
and like they say, you will see what you look for. So now you're going to go looking for all the ways that the world is going to crap, right? Well, I don't want to see that. Yeah. I'd rather be completely ignorant until the day that the bomb comes and takes me out.
It'll happen one day,
Maybe, but I won't have to worry about it until that moment.
So I have a couple things here, just a couple of ideas I'm going to throw out here. One, listen to that Benjamin Hardy thing, that video that I sent, because I want to start working with that one-page worksheet that he has on there. You can download it for free from in the description below that video. It's on YouTube, and because I want to start working through that one. So one of the things that I have noticed, this was my original thought when I had that dream, when I tried to sort of figure out what's going on with it. I realized it was something very special. I didn't know what it was or how it worked or anything else. That took me 20 years to come up with an explanation for it. But I had the thought, whatever happened to me must happen to lots of people. They just don't notice it. And here we are now, 65 years later, roughly, and I'm more and more convinced that that's absolutely true. Because what I noticed over the years, and I've noticed it more and more and more lately, is that this model that I've put together about thinking is time traveling and your mind is a time machine, and we're always, every thought you have, in a sense, is a connection to another possible reality, right? What I realize is that that's always been true. The reason we never heard of it before is because Newton came along in 1670 and published this thesis on gravity and motion and stuff. And so the idea that the present is created by the past, that just kind of got locked into our belief system. And now people generally believe that the reason my life is the way it is now is because of my past. I mean, that just goes without saying for like 99.9% of the population. But if you think about it a little bit, you realize it's not actually true, And so and Benjamin Hardy mentions this in that little video that I gave you the link to. So that's really good. But the other part of what I said to myself, which is that other people must have this kind of thing happen to them as well, but they just don't know what it is, or they forget about it, or they don't talk about it, or maybe they just forget it, whatever. But luckily for me, I didn't forget it. And so over the years, what I've noticed is that idea that you, whoever you is split into two parts, and one part is sort of in the inner world, and the other part is in the outer world, which is physical, right? That has kept showing up for me in different things that I've read, And so a couple of them that I'll just mention. We just mentioned a minute ago the third eye, right? Well, I remember studying yoga and Indian philosophy and stuff years ago, and I also put quite a bit of effort into, learning how to develop my ESP and that sort of thing. And both of those fields, one of which is yoga, and the other one is ESP, the mind, they both talk about the third eye, right? Well, what's the third eye? Well, it's your inner eye. It's what you imagine. It's like as plain as the nose on Phil's face, as plain as the mustache on Phil's face. So, it's so obvious, right? And yet when you read these books on yoga, which I did when I was a teenager and studied them and tried to figure out what they were talking about, they said that the fundamental thing you have to learn to do is to open your third eye. Well, that's using your imagination, your inner senses, right? Of course, you also have an inner ear and an inner sense of feelings. So it's basically recognizing the inner senses. That's it, And the idea of that we've heard from the Arabian Nights, the magic lamp, Aladdin and the magic lamp, right? Well, what's the magic lamp? Well, it's your third eye, and your thoughts, basically. Learning how to, magic spells. How often have we heard about magic spells, right? Magic potions, magic spells. I mean, abracadabra, right? Everybody knows that one. Well, that comes from a specific affirmation from Arabic. I can't remember at the moment what it's supposed to mean, or if anybody really knows what it means. But it's, it's one of those things that you repeat it, It's like, my thoughts are powerful. My thoughts are real forces, like Kehoe says, Or my mind is a time machine. I am connected to the past and the future equally, right? It's like that abracadabra thing. It's an affirmation that when you use it and you use neuroplasticity, meaning that you repeat it enough so that it really embeds itself in your consciousness, then it becomes really powerful. So that idea of, we have this magic lamp that when we rub it in a certain way, that's kind of a metaphor of it. But it's like the secret, knowing the secret, right? The secret is your thoughts are creating your life. And people have been talking about that for thousands of years. Buddha talked about it 2,500 years ago, right? He says we create our world with our thoughts. So that's one thing that I've noticed that people talk about a lot, right? And all of the occult stuff, astral traveling, what's that? Same thing. It's using your imagination to imagine yourself in a different state, a different place, right? One way that it's been described that we've all heard about is the magic carpet. Again, from the Arabian Nights, right? The idea that when you have this magic carpet, it'll take you anywhere. Well, that's exactly what your imagination is. And of course, when you start off doing these meditation exercises or visualization exercises, and you're imagining something that happened in the past, like we do with the past successes list, then, for a while, it's just an idea, right? It's just an idea. I talk about that yo-yo contest that I was in that I won, and it was a big win for me, right? That yo-yo contest. And, but sometimes you think about it and it's just a fleeting thought, yo-yo contest, right? It might be an image. It might be some kind of way over there, in some other time, some other place, right? But sometimes when you do it, you're right back there, right? Like I've had that experience, and maybe some of you have too, where you're doing an affirmation or you're doing a meditation, and you sort of, you kind of fall asleep in a sense, and you're totally gone from this world, and you're living some other world, just like another dream. We've all had dreams, I think, that seem like they're real, and so that idea of the magic carpet, I think, comes from that experience. Because who is it that came up with those stories? People in the Middle East, the Muslims, right? They pray like, I don't know, is it 5 times or 6 times a day? And when they do it, they have a little carpet, right? Well, I'm sure that some of those people were sitting there praying, and what's praying is using your inner senses, right? Talking to God, or however you want to describe it. And, you put your little carpet down and suddenly you realize, whoa, yeah, I was back in that yo-yo contest, You fall asleep. So I think that's what the magic carpet is. And so these are ideas. The third eye, opening your third eye, the energy, the magic carpet. All of these are ideas that everybody knows about. Every kid has heard about them because there's all sorts of fairy tales and stories about people in the magic carpet, I've always thought of myself as being British, even though I left there when I was like 18 months old or something. But I've always felt that I had this great connection to the UK. And of course, when I was young, my sisters or my mother's siblings used to come and visit us once in a while, right? We had various aunts and uncles come and pay us visits. And they would often send us cards for Christmas or birthdays. And so I used to get these books from England, and that's probably where I heard about Rupert because Rupert is like, he's as famous as Winnie the Pooh or Donald Duck or anything else,
Wow.
but probably only in England, right? And you go to a bookstore these days, you can find Rupert Bear. You know, he has all these great cartoons and things. Um, anyway, I was reading one of those one day, and the story was about Rupert Bear and the Magic Throne or something, right? And Rupert found this, him and his buddies. You know, there's always 3 or 4 people hanging out together, right? And so Rupert Bear had a couple of his little friends there. And anyway, they found this throne, and when you sat on this magic throne, it would take you anywhere, right? Like a flying carpet, same deal. I mean, all you have to do is say, "Hey, I want to go here," and there you know, and there you go. So I thought, hey, here's the magic carpet again, right? So these ideas, obviously, to me at least, and I think you get my drift here. Obviously, if these various ideas of magic carpet, you know, magic lamp, the third eye, astral traveling, you know, all these notions, if they all refer to using our inner senses, then it makes perfect sense that these ideas would be around, you know, for hundreds and thousands of years, right? Because everybody has inner senses, everybody has an imagination, everybody dreams. And so the secret, and it's really funny, it's called The Secret, you know, but it is a secret because everybody knows about it, but they don't get it, right? The secret is learning to use your inner senses, learning to control your thoughts, right? And so, like I say, the references are everywhere, you know. For more information about this online community, to get your own copy of the book upon which this entire training series is based, either the ebook, the paperback, or the audiobook, go to mindtimeandpower.com, where you can also get a free copy of this Design Your Life workbook.